accurate, even up to a mile, but in so many cases on Civil War battlefields, the actual distances they were fighting were much closer. So its full potential wasn't really used as much as it could have been. There was another one called the 3-inch ordnance rifle, which was the equivalent to this particular one, and actually proved more reliable in service, and the actual artillerymen preferred that to this one. And then there were various other ones used as well, because they couldn't produce them as many as they needed quick enough on both sides. So all of these guns, all sat on the same carriage. Now we've got our crew here. I should be actually on the crew, but and doing the positions. There's 4 positions actually on the gun crew. Then there's a gun captain. Then there's a runner, and then there's somebody on the limber, and they're the main constituents of the crew. But today, our number 4 will be doing the number 3 position at the moment. They don't have to cross the barrel or anything, they just step over the trail, so they can actually do both positions at once. So what we'll do now is we'll actually go through all the different positions before they actually fly the gun. So number 1, if you hold up your tool. Now this is the rammer and the sponge. One end's the sponge, one end's the rammer. The sponge goes in the bucket and goes down the tube, and that will extinguish all the any burning embers, and it will also make sure there's no air down the tube, no air that might combust anything that goes down there. The other end is the rammer, and when we put the charge down the gun, that actually forces the charge down into the breech. Number 2 has got the worm. This is put down after the discharge of the weapon, and in the proper times we use paper cartridges, but they're virtually always totally incinerated. But at the time they used muslin or cotton bags to hold the actual powder charge, and some of that may have been left in the barrel. It might not have all combusted, and so you have to put this worm down, which is just like a corkscrew really, and it goes to the bottom of the barrel, and it's rotated, and it's there to pick up anything. If it picks up something, they shrug it off, go again, and they go again until there is nothing coming up from the bottom of the barrel. When they've done that, they put down the worm and they wait for the charge. The charge will come up, and we won't do it right this second. But the man runs up to the gives it to the number two. She in this case turns. Now always turns inwards. The idea is that they've got a charge of maybe a pound or more of black powder. Not in our case, of course, but and when they come to put it down the barrel, if that goes off before, that's the whole of the gun crew gone. So it's much better if their bullet or anything comes along and it hits the actual one of the gunners rather than hits that. It only takes out the one person. So they turn round inwardly like that, and then number 1 comes and rams it down nice and slowly, pushing it gently down. In the case of this is a smooth bore with a 2-inch bore, but in the real ones they were 3-inch, and they were of course rifled. So actually ramming the charge down would have been a bit harder, would have taken a bit more muscle. Right, so once they've done that, they go out and stand opposite the axles of the weapon, so that they don't have when it goes off, they're not in the firing line. And I'm standing in the number 3 position, and what we're doing, the person in number 4 is doing it now, but number 3, he puts this pricker, what he called down. It's a brass or copper tube, copper wire, and it's got a sharp point, and it opens up the bag with the propellant in it. So it goes there, makes a nice big hole in it, and then in the real world, they would have put something called a friction primer down. Now, friction primer was a little copper tube filled with gunpowder, and across the top was virtually a match and a striker plate. This had a little ring on the end, and when it was put in, a lanyard was attached to it, and the lanyard, when it was pulled, it like pulled a match, virtually a match across the striker as on a matchbox. That set off a flame. The gunpowder in the little tube went off straight down into the tube, and off went the big charge. In our case, we used 2 blank cartridges, and they're rimfire, and as we fire them, the lanyard pulls well, I'm not sure what to call it really. It's a striker plate, and it pulls it over and it hits the .22 cartridge on the rim, and off it goes. So that's basically how we do it. So what we'll do now is, if everybody comes and assumes their position again, and right, I shall shout load, and they'll go through. We'll do it as if the gun has just fired. So just as I spoke to you about. So load. Yeah. Lovely. They always keep their hands under the pole, so they're not actually gripping it over the top, because in case there is an accident, there'd be less problem with the what happens to their fingers. Right. Okay, advance the round. Now the round comes. This actual satchel that he's carrying is actually the right size for the real thing. Yes, we'll fire. This is the correct size that they would have, but of course don't forget the actual rounds that they were firing were, in this case, a 10-pound weight bolt, plus the charge, the powder charge in behind it. So it would take up quite a bit of that satchel. So we're bringing up the when bringing up there, the number 1 has rammed it down. Now, in this case, it would have been me, number 3, actually making a hole in the cartridge, and then we're going to put the 2-2, right? And then she steps away. Now, in the real world, this lanyard would have been really quite long. I think somebody said 14 feet, but we don't get any recoil so much with this, because we're not firing a charge, firing an actual bolt. So it doesn't come back. But in the day, they would recoil 2-3 feet maybe. It all depends on the ground, and as such, they would need to be well away from the actual thing. Of course, this isn't a full size gun. It's not. It's a bit smaller. Now, before we actually fire it, it does go rather loudly bang. So if you want to sort of half cover your ears up, don't put your hands right over your ears because of the pressure. Just sort of cup your hand across your ears and hold it there. And so when it does go off, the sound will sort of echo off your hand, but not and still won't affect your hearing. So if you've got dogs or anything and they might be a bit scared or anything, you know, take them away or whatever. But anyway, so then the gun captain, who has sighted the gun, he will shout fire. Now I'll shout fire in a moment. Right, so the person who's going to fire it shouts gun ready, and then we shout fire. Whoa. And then we go through the procedure again.
You feel it, you actually feel it, don't you, Twist?
Most important that sponge is nice and wet. Not too wet though. If it's too wet, then the actual cartridge won't go off because you'll have put too much water onto the gunpowder, and that will stop it firing. And then we have a bit of a problem because we have to stand here for 5 minutes and then wash it out. Advance round. So the chap who's brought the round up, he as well keeps his back to the enemy, so that if anything, any bullets or something come, they won't hit the charge, they'll hit him. So here we go again. Are you all ready? Right. Gun ready? Yep. Fire! The Union Army were always well supplied with cannon and also well supplied with horses. And each cannon would have a limber behind it with the ammunition on, and attached to the limber would be the cannon. The Union usually had 6 horses per gun, but the Confederates found it harder to get weapons and horses. So a typical battery, which in the Union Army would have been 6 guns, in the Confederate Army was only 4, certainly as the war went on. And then when they were starting to need more horses, they only had 4 horses per gun, so the poor old horse had to do more work in the Confederate Army. We'll do 4 for you today, so this was number 3. And then, that's it. Right, okay, ready? Fire! Now, of course, this is 4 ounces of powder. The original charges would have been a pound of powder, half a kilo. So the bang we make is quite large, but nowhere near as large as the real thing would have been. It was much better to be an artilleryman in the Civil War than an infantryman. You had a lot less chance of being killed. They did have what they call counter-battery fire, where the guns used to fire at each other, but that never used to be quite as deadly as the infantry going up against each other and taking casualties from the artillery. The main charge that they needed against the infantry was canister, and that was a load of balls in a little tin. It was like filling a big tin of baked beans. Instead of beans, you've got balls, and they would fire these out when the infantry got to within about 300 yards, sort of almost, because they were using rifles in those days for the infantry. 300 yards was an effective range for them to shoot at the artillery. So once they got to that range, they would start firing canister at them. As it goes off, the actual canister disintegrates, and all the balls come out, and it's virtually a large shotgun. They didn't used to like firing them too much from rifled cannons, because as those balls bounced their way down the barrel, it ended up with taking bits of the rifling off, and that ended with a less accurate weapon. So the 12-pound Napoleons were ideal for that sort of thing. So anyway, number 3. Right, are you ready? Fire! Yeah, that was a good one. Sorry? No, we'll do one more. Sorry.
Is that only number 3?
Yeah, go again. Yeah. Well, there you are. I was telling you earlier that you need the worm to get bits out, and just now we've actually got a bit out. So, although it was a nice big bang, and unfortunately it still didn't disintegrate all the paper. Right, advance round. They have various other types of shell besides solid shot and the canister. They also had shell and case shot. Shell was a ball, or in this case it would have been a bolt, actually full of gunpowder with a fuse on it. And the chap who actually was with the limber would set the fuse on those with the instruction of the gun captain. The gun captain said, how many seconds it should be, they set the fuse to that, and then that was brought up and put in. So the shell was full of gunpowder, and when it exploded after so long, all those shards of the actual case went off. With case shot, they had the same effective thing, but it was full of balls as well. So that was even worse. And the idea was you detonate that in front of and over the top of the infantry, and it throws the balls down and actually kills as many of them as possible. That's what it's all about. So right, now the final one, before we leave you, are we all ready? Fire! Well, thank you for your attention, and you know, thank you. Yes, come and see us all. We're down at the battle on the battlefield at 12:30. It's a reenactment of a particular battle, the Battle of Bentonville in North Carolina on March the 21st, 1865. It was one of the rare battles where the headquarters of one side were actually overwhelmed by the other side's infantry. So it's quite good. It was also one of the general's sons was killed as well. So it's quite a significant battle in that respect. Anyway.